gave to you. So I gave an assignment, and then last time before we went off, can you see my screen? Can you see my screen, everybody?
Yeah.
Fully seen.
Yes, sir.
Now the question says write a program. It says write a program. Write a program. My screen is dark, isn't it? That converts
Yes, it's that.
Naira to Real. To Reals. So it will ask you, it will ask for the amount. Ask for the amount. So you can see 4 is a keyword, and so you need to comment out. So you need to write a comment. So, but actually this is a text. So you know in Google Colab, you can use a code and you can use a text. So if I click on text, it's not going to see it as code. You understand? So there's no need to comment out. So once I use a text, it's just going to see it as a text, and it's not going. There's no need to comment out anything. So please turn off your camera. Doctor, remark for camera in. Okay. Now, write a program that converts Naira to Reals. It will ask for the amount in Reals. The amount in Reals. So, and it will convert it to Naira. So this is a project I wanted us to work on before the term went off for the last time. So inshallah, we would work on it now. So I know some of you have actually tried, and like I told you, the best thing for you to do is to try. Programming is not a property of one person. Anyone who puts the same effort has the capacity to achieve the same thing. So if you put the same effort, you have the capacity to achieve the same thing the best programmers ever have achieved in life. So how do you tackle this problem? The first thing to do is to declare your reals. So I would show you how to do that. Then I would say reals is equals to input. So I use my input statement here. So then amount, then open the parentheses, reals. So this is the first thing to do. Reals equals to input amount reals. So mind you, you need to put this and give a space. Otherwise, it's going to be too close to it. Then you write Naira. You write an input function. So in reals multiplied by what? Multiplied by 300. How much is real today, Dr. Schreib? Hello?
320, sir.
320. Oh boy. So 320. So now, so reals is equals to input amount reals. So Naira input 320, print Naira. So once you run this, it's gonna ask you a question. So it's gonna ask you a question. Why is it so slow? Is there any problem? So it's now asking amount in reals. So I want to send, like, for example, 5,000 reals to Nigeria, for example, 5,000, then enter. So what's it asking me again? There is a problem. It's asking me 5,000 what? So why is it asking me that? Can someone tell me why it's asking me that? Okay, I use a double input, sorry. So this should just be reals, naira equals to reals. So let me do it again. You should always see the box, brothers. So try to always see the box. Oh, shh. Can someone tell me why we have this?
Now,
Who can tell me what the problem is?
I think the problem is that riyad times 320. The riyad is seeing riyad as strange. We need to cast it as an integer.
MashaAllah. So you need to cast it as an integer. So let's try it again. So 5,000. Then let's enter it. So that is 1.6 million naira. Can you see? So thank you very much. Was that Habil? Sheikh Habil? Was it you?
Now,
That's great. So you saw what the problem was. So the problem was you have to cast the reals because it's seen the reals as what? As a string. You need to cast it to make it an integer before it's going to work properly. So this is how we get it. So anytime you feel like you want to change some money, you just click on the button again. Someone wants to send 4,200 reals. Just enter. It tells you the price immediately. So this is it's someone talking. So it tells you what the price is immediately. So let's go on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one. So the next question says, you should find an area of a room. Or it says you should find an area of a room. And it said write a program that asks the user to enter the width and the length of the room. Once the values have been read, your program should compute and display the area of the room. So the length and the width, I got a lot of responses from the student. I would break it down for you. I want you to all focus here, please. So the first thing to do is you compute the area. You compute the area of the room. How do you compute that? You say length, because you know a room is going to be either a square or a rectangle. So length. So mind you, I told you there, I said the length and the width will be entered as floating point numbers. So this is what I told you. So you will say float. So you write float in before you write anything because you're trying to cast it as a float. So you input, then you input, then you open another parenthesis. Then what do you say? You say enter. Enter the what? Enter the length. Because sometimes you will have the length in dots with decimal point. So this is why you're trying to put a float there, or you might have it in integers so it can come out as a float. Mute your mic, everybody, please. Everyone should mute their mics. Mute your mic, everyone, please. So the length is in float. The input is enter the length of the room in feet. It's good the way you mention it in feet. You want it to be in feet. So then right in front of this, you put a colon and give space before you parenthesis. Then you want to do the width. So remember to put a float as well. And you do the same on input. Then what do you do after that? You open a quotation and say enter the width. Enter the width of the room in feet as well. All right. So I think we're all listening. Is it clear? I hope it's okay. It's clear. So
yes.
once you've been able to do this, then you try to run it. So now let's run it. So we run it. It's asking the length of the room. Let's say the length of the room is 22.7. Just write 22.7. He's already asked you in feet, so it's not gonna. So then enter again. What about the the width? Let's say 30 let's say 12.8.9. All right. So then let's enter again. So we've already entered again. You see, there is nothing to see. So you would think there's nothing or there is a mistake. No. So now let's continue with another block of code. Let's compute the area now. So now you want to write a code to compute the area. So what do you say? You say area. You want to write a formula for the area. Area is equals to length times. This is how you write times in Python times width. So this is area. Area is length. Okay, you can see it's giving me a problem. So there's a problem here. That because this has not been declared before. Can someone tell me why is it showing this? Can anyone tell me why it's showing that there is a mistake there?
Maybe you have not declared. Maybe you have length. Probably maybe it's assigned a variable for length.
Yeah, I've assigned a length as a variable, but why is it still showing me this?
Is it okay?
Because the variable I assigned for it was spelled in the wrong way.
In the wrong way, yeah.
So it did not know it. So I need to remove that and put an H. So I need to run it now. Can you see the problem is
The
gone?
spelling.
Yeah, the problem is gone now. It's very sensitive. So when you run this, so now it's gonna length is not defined. It said the length is not defined, so I'll run this again. So I'll define it 22.7. So let's say 15. So now you can see there's no problem anymore. So once it doesn't give you error, everything is fine. All right. It's not every time you run something that is going to give you a response. So now let's display. Can you see there is a connection between one box and another one, even though you're not writing all the codes together in the same place, but they are connected together. So now display the result. So how do you display your result? So you would say print, use a print statement. So print the area of the wall, the area of the room is, then put a comma, area, then put another comma, then put a quotation, square feet. So in this case, what did we do? We said print the area of the room. So this print, the one we put in quotation, will be printed exactly the same because is a string and is not being defined, is not given a definition, it's not a variable. So it's going to print exactly where the area of the room is. That's why you put into quotation. Then you put a comma to put the length, the value for the length. So you put a comma. So it's a comma area. So you put area and you put another comma to separate it from both the square feet and the area of the room. So now let's run this and see what the result is going to be. So now it says the area of the room is 340 square feet. So this is exactly what I expect you to do. Many of you tried. I went through your responses. They were amazing responses. Nevertheless, this is how to do it in a very good way. So sometimes you don't need to use a plus. So once you already declare the variable, just put it in between. So once you put the variable in between, it's going to find its way. So now you can see it's 340.5. All right. Now let's move on to the next one. Let's move on to the next one. The next one says you should find a write a program that reads the length and width of a farmer's field from the user in feet. So display the area of the field in acres. So there are 43,560 square meter in 1 acre. So if someone is trying to sell a land for you and is trying to use acre to destroy your brain, just write a simple program and let him mention his acre, he converts it to plot. Or let him mention his plot or his square feet. You know, all of these agents, they're very cunning sometimes. They use those words, square feet, those terminologies to get you confused. So this is a way to write, to make your life easy. So the first thing to do is you compute the area of the field. That's the first thing to do. Compute the area of the field, then report the result in acres. Report the result in acres. This is exactly what we want to do. So what do we have to do? The square feet is being given. So the square per acre is given as 43560. So this is not my own saying. In the question, it says it says there are 43,560 square feet in 1 acre. So this is what the question says. So you have to mention this first. So once you've done that, then you go to another code. I wish to do this in another block, another box, just to separate it from each other. So the next thing is you want to read the input from the user. So now we want to read an input from the user. So the user would tell us the length. Is equals to, make sure you float the length. So float the length, because you can have, most of the time when you're measuring the length of a place, you usually have them in floats, or you can even have them in numbers, but sometimes, most of the time, you have a decimal place. This is exactly why we put it in float. So enter the length of the field in feet. That's the first thing to do. You enter the length of the field in feet. After that has been done, then you put quotation, you put your colon, give a space. This is just to make it work pretty neat. Then, because if you write a neat code, anyone who reads it will like it. So the width is, you float that as well. Then input value. So enter what? Enter the width. Enter the width of the field in feet. Did you see that? So now if you run this, it's going to show you, did I run this? Yeah, I need to run it. Because if you don't run it, it's not going to understand it. So what is the length we want to use? Let's say, for example, the length is 400,000 feet, for example. So you enter. So it's not asking you the width. Let's say the width is 6,000 or 60,000, for example. So you enter again. So now you've entered 2 times. So the values are being stored in the memory of the kernel of what you're writing. So you continue with the code. So now let's compute. Now let's compute the area in acres. So compute the area in acres. So how do you write it? Acres, this is how to write formula. I want you to understand this concept very well. Writing formula in Python is pretty easy. Length times width, length times width divided by square feet per acre. You can see it's bringing it because it's already stored in the memory. So it's already stored in the memory. So when you run this now, it's gonna give you a result. So, but because you did not print anything, you don't have anything. But it's given a result already stored in the memory, which is given the formula. So now display the result. Display. So whenever you want to display the result, you use a print statement. Print. I told you, whatever you write in the parentheses will come out the way you write it. Print the area of the field is, print the area of the field is comma acres, comma acres. Since we are having the result in acres. So run it. So this is the value, the area of the field in acres. So inshallah, this is how we do it. And inshallah, when we continue with the mathematical things in Python, you will solve this problem. There is a problem here. There is too much of there's too much of numbers after the decimal place, but I'm not going to solve it for you now. So you will solve it yourself, bismillah. So everyone solve this problem, and let's move on to the next one. So we should be moving on to numbers today. Although we have only 10 minutes to go. Do you understand the assignment better now? So I only wanted you to work really, really hard over the weekend. Although some work really hard, and I did not get response from some other ones. So make sure you always try your best when you have a task. The more you try, the more you get it. But if you don't try, you don't get nothing.
Ekale, Equator.
Please mute your mic, mute your mic, mute your mic. Mute your mic, please. So I'm trying to get the slide for the Okay. Now, I think we have done enough with variables. So try your best to make sure you try and practice more about the variables, and we can still do more if there is a need for it. But today we're going to talk about numbers quickly. So we've got the three numeric types of Python, and there are three numeric types in Python. So we've got integer, we have a float, and we have complex numbers. So an integer is a number which is not having a decimal place, and a float is a number with a decimal place. So if a number has a decimal place, it's called a float. And if a number has got a combination of number and letters, it's called a complex number. So Python would find it complex, it's going to deal with it, but it's going to call it a complex number. So to verify, I think we already did this a lot. So you want to know what type of data or what type of an object is in Python. You say print type and that value. So let's say, for example, you want to see, you have a number like 5. You want to know what type of value it is. So you say print type, then the value you want to know. So this is a way to know. We use this a lot. I think I did it with you at length. So if you were not in the class then, I would encourage you to check the previous videos. So it's pretty easy, just say print, then open a parenthesis, type, open another one, X. So if, let's say for example, you say X is 5, Y is 3, Y is 3J, and Z is 3.2. So I would ask you, if I say print Z, if I say print type Z, what would I say on the console?
Integer.
Huh?
Integer.
Float.
Print type 2. Print type Z, huh? It's gonna give me a
Okay.
float because it's
Float.
3.2. Thank you very much. So what about if I say print, type 5. Dr. Schreib, what would I say? Print type 5 and print type, huh?
Integer.
Integer.
Is that what?
Integer.
It's gonna give an integer. Okay, good. That means you still remember. So let's move on to the next one. So an integer is a whole number, positive or negative. So this is something you need to understand. Even if a number is negative, it's still an integer. But once it's got a decimal place, it becomes a float. Is that understood? So example, x1 is an integer. Y34, as long as it takes unlimited length, is an integer. If it's got a negative, if it's got a negative sign, it's still an integer. So being a negative does not remove it from being an integer. But what about 0? Is 0 an integer?
Yes, it is. According to Python.
According to what?
According to Python, I think it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you mute your mic, everybody? People are talking. Mute your mic, everybody, mute your mic. CP marketing coach. Can you mute your mic? Jazakallah khair. So, what was I saying before the distraction? Sorry for it. So I was talking about the
0 was an integer.
yeah, that is 0 is an integer. Sheikh Farouk said it's an integer. So let's, yeah, of course, because it's actually one of the so it's actually one of the let's do a print type 0. Print type 0. What would it give you? It gives an integer. Can you see? So because it, of course, it's one of the values, is one of the integers we have, so it's going to give you as an integer. So this is why it's saying integer, or integer is a whole number, positive or negative. So it's gonna what is an integer. So now what about float? So float or floating point number is a number positive or negative that contains one or more decimal places of decimals. So example of float is 1.1, 1.0, negative 35.9, whatever it is, negative, positive. What about negative 0? Do we have a negative 0? Negative 0, what is it going to be? Print
I
type.
don't think
We don't know.
mathematically there's
Maybe.
something like that.
Let us check it in the collab.
Yeah, still an integer.
Is
Still an
is that an integer? Okay, now let me say negative 0.0.
print.
It becomes a
It's going to
float.
be float.
You see?
A float.
So this is how to let you know that you have a good control of your programming language. Irrespective of what it is, once it's got a dot, a decimal place, is a float. So inshallah, we would be stopping on this complex number. And I think we can talk about the conversion, which we already talked about before, but just to, recap it with you. So complex numbers are numbers which is having a combination of letters and numbers. So 5j minus 5j, 3 plus 5j, all of these are complex numbers. So I want you to keep on trying, try more